The morning sunlight poured through the tall windows of my Los Angeles apartment, spilling gold across the marble countertop. I was stirring oat milk into my coffee, still in my silk blouse from an early client meeting, when my phone buzzed on the counter.
Mom.
I froze. The name alone made my pulse tighten, like a ghost whispering from a grave I'd already buried. I hadn't spoken to my parents in nearly 6 years, not since my sister's graduation, the day they looked me in the eye and said I was no longer their daughter. My thumb hovered over the screen. I told myself I didn't care anymore. I had a thriving interior design firm, clients across the coast, a home that smelled like lavender and second chances. I didn't need them. But still, I opened the message. We need to talk about Grandma's house. The words hit harder than I expected. That house, the one Grandma promised to me when I was 20, the one I'd quietly restored from the ground up after she passed. The same house my parents never cared about until now. I set my coffee down, watching the steam rise like smoke from an old wound. For years, I'd built my life on silence, on never looking back. But suddenly, the past was knocking again, and this time, I wasn't the girl they disowned. It was supposed to be a proud day, my little sister Madison's college graduation. The campus was wrapped in sunshine and applause, every corner filled with laughter and proud parents waving flowers and cameras. I stood near the back of the crowd, clutching a bouquet of daisies I'd bought on my way there. They were Grandma's favorite. When I spotted my parents, their faces were radiant, but not for me. My mother was adjusting Madison's cap for the 5th time, fussing over every detail, while my father bragged to anyone who'd listen about her new corporate job waiting in New York. When my mother finally turned, her smile faded.
Oh.
You came, she said flatly. Of course I did, I replied softly. She's my sister. My father's voice cut through like a blade. You could at least dress properly. You look out of place. I looked down at my simple navy dress, the best I could afford then, after months of juggling bills and working double shifts at a cafe. They didn't know, or maybe they didn't care, that I was struggling to keep my head above water after walking away from the path they wanted for me. It all unraveled during the family dinner that followed. My father raised a toast to Madison, calling her the daughter who made them proud. Then his eyes flicked toward me. And some people, he added with a bitter chuckle, choose disappointment over discipline. The room went silent. I felt my throat tighten, heat rising to my face. You mean because I didn't marry who you wanted? Because I wanted to build something for myself first. My mother's lips pressed into a thin line. You've embarrassed this family enough, Emily. Maybe it's best if you stay away for a while. But it was my father's next words that carved the scar deepest. You are no longer part of this family. Chairs scraped. Madison cried. I stood there frozen, heart pounding like it might break free from my chest. I turned to leave, but a trembling hand caught mine, Grandma's. Her blue eyes, steady and kind, met mine as she pressed a small brass key into my palm. This house will always be your home, sweetheart, she whispered. One day, you'll understand why I chose you. That night, I packed everything I owned into 2 suitcases and left. I didn't look back. Not once. The first year on my own was brutal. I moved into a cramped studio apartment in downtown San Diego. 1 window, creaky floorboards, and a view of a graffiti-covered alley. The walls were thin enough to hear my neighbors' arguments. The hum of the city never stopped, and every night, I fell asleep clutching that small brass key Grandma had given me. It was the only piece of home I had left. I worked 2 jobs, mornings at a cafe, evenings assisting a local interior designer who specialized in beachfront homes. I knew nothing about luxury design back then. I just knew how to listen and observe. I watched how colors could change a mood, how light could make a room feel like a hug. The designer, a sharp but kind woman named Claire Donovan, saw something in me. You've got an eye for warmth, she told me one afternoon, studying the display I'd set up for a client. That's rare. People can be trained to decorate, but not to feel space. Those words became fuel. Claire started teaching me how to sketch floor plans, source fabrics, pitch to clients. I made mistakes, plenty of them, but every setback only hardened my resolve. I saved every dollar I could, living on instant noodles and day-old pastries. Eventually, I built a small portfolio, photos of apartments I'd helped transform, rooms that somehow mirrored my own rebirth. And when Grandma passed, I finally inherited what she'd promised, the old coastal house in Santa Barbara, weathered by time, but still standing tall. I remember walking through it for the first time after years, the creak of the wooden floors, the faint scent of lavender still in the air. The roof leaked, the paint peeled, but to me, it felt like a heartbeat. I made a promise then. I'd restore it, not just for her, but for the woman I was becoming. With Claire's mentorship and my growing client list, I launched my own design business, Haven by Emily Ross. The name felt fitting. I was building havens for others while finally creating my own. There were nights I doubted everything. Nights I'd sit on Grandma's porch steps, hands covered in paint, whispering into the sea breeze, "I hope you're proud of me." But little by little things changed. A celebrity client posted about my work. Then a magazine feature followed. Soon I had contracts, investors, and more clients than I could handle. I bought a new car, repainted the house, and even turned the guest room into an office overlooking the ocean. Through it all, I kept my life private. My social media was modest, no flashy updates or bragging captions. My family didn't know I'd moved back into Grandma's house. They didn't know I'd rebuild it, or myself from scratch. And I wanted it that way. Because some successes are best kept quiet until the right moment to reveal them arrives. It started with another text. "We'll be in Santa Barbara this weekend. We'd like to visit Grandma's house." No apology. No explanation. Just entitlement disguised as politeness. I stared at the message for a long moment, sipping coffee in the kitchen where Grandma's antique clock still ticked softly on the wall. For years, I'd imagined what it might feel like to face them again. Whether I'd tremble, cry, or crumble. But the woman standing there that morning wasn't the same Emily they'd disowned. When Saturday came, the ocean air carried the faint smell of salt and jasmine through the open windows. The house gleamed in morning light, ivory walls, oak floors, and hand-woven rugs that whispered stories of rebirth. The dining table was set with fresh lilies, the same flowers Grandma used to grow in the garden. I wasn't preparing for a fight. I was preparing for closure. The doorbell rang. My mother stepped in first, wrapped in a beige coat and an expression that screamed judgment. My father followed, older, grayer, but still wearing that familiar air of control. Madison trailed behind them, nervous, eyes darting around, as if she already sensed the tension beneath the polished surface. My father gave a low whistle. "Well, this place cleaned up nicely." I smiled faintly. "It should. I spent years restoring it." He turned, brows knitting. "You did this?" "Yes," I said, steady. "Every inch." For a moment, no one spoke. They wandered through the living room, taking in the art, the sunlight filtering through lace curtains, the subtle scent of vanilla candles. My mother's fingers brushed the edge of a framed photo on the mantel, one of me and Grandma, laughing on that same porch years ago. "This must have cost a fortune," she murmured. "It did," I replied. "But I could afford it." Her head snapped up. My father chuckled, trying to sound casual. "Oh, come on, Emily. You don't expect us to believe you did all this on your own." I let the silence stretch, then gestured toward the corner of the room, to a sleek glass award resting on a shelf. "Haven by Emily Ross, National Design Innovator of the Year," it read. Madison gasped softly. My father's smirk faded. My mother blinked as if she were trying to process a different language. "I built a design firm," I said quietly. "We manage luxury renovations across California. This house was my first project." My father cleared his throat. "That's impressive." "Really? But the reason we came," I cut him off gently, "is because you want the house. Grandma's house." Their silence confirmed it. "She promised it to me," I continued, walking to the window where sunlight spilled over the ocean. "I think you remember that day." My mother finally spoke, her voice tight. "Emily, you know that was sentimental talk. Your father and I put money into this home over the years. It's part of the family estate. I turned back to face them, calm but unflinching. The estate you said I wasn't part of? Her lips parted, but no sound came out. For the first time, I saw it, not just guilt, but recognition. They were standing in the life they told me I'd never have. The proof of every insult, every dismissal, was right there in the polished floors beneath their feet. I didn't invite you here to argue, I said. I invited you to see what I built, the home Grandma always believed I deserved. Madison stepped forward then, her voice trembling. Emily, I didn't know. I'm so sorry. I looked at her and saw the same innocence I once had, before I learned what it cost to be myself. It's okay, I whispered. Now you do. Behind her, my parents stood in silence, surrounded by everything they thought I'd never achieve. And for the first time in my life, I wasn't the one seeking their approval. They were standing in mine. We moved to the patio, the same spot where Grandma used to drink her afternoon tea. The ocean stretched endlessly beyond the cliffs, waves whispering against the rocks below. I poured lemonade, the way she taught me, over ice in tall glasses, the slices of lemon glinting in the sun. My parents sat stiffly across from me, their silence heavy. My father cleared his throat first. Emily, look, maybe we didn't handle things right before. But we're family. We can start over. The house, well, we could all share it. It's big enough. I almost laughed. The audacity of pretending nothing happened was almost poetic. Share it, I repeated softly. You mean the home you tried to erase me from? My mother's hands trembled slightly as she reached for her glass. We were angry. You defied us. You made choices we didn't understand. And for that, you told me I wasn't your daughter. I said, not harshly, but with a clarity that cut through the air. You humiliated me in public, and you left me to start over with nothing. The only person who believed in me was Grandma. And now, you're sitting in her house asking for a share of it. No one spoke. Even the waves seemed to still for a moment. Then I leaned forward, folding my hands. I'll make you an offer. Not money, not property, something else. Their eyes lifted, hopeful, desperate. My conditions, I said simply. If you want any part of my life again, if you want access to me or this home, there are things that need to change. I turned first to my father. You need to say the words you've avoided for 6 years. Admit what you said that day was cruel. Not because I need your apology, but because you do. You can't heal until you face what you broke. His jaw tensed, pride battling guilt. But he didn't argue. Then I looked at my mother. You have to stop pretending that love is conditional. You can't withhold it when your children don't fit your expectations. Madison deserves better, too. My mother blinked, tears forming. For once, she didn't defend herself. Finally, I turned to Madison. You're not to blame. But you need to stop living in their shadow. You're brilliant, I've always known that. Don't let anyone, not even them, define what makes you worthy. Madison nodded, tears spilling over. I promise, she whispered. I took a slow breath, feeling the warmth of the sun on my skin. If you can do those things, if you can actually change, not for me but for yourselves, then this home will always have space for you. But until then, I gestured toward the sea, calm and final. I live here alone. They sat speechless, the weight of truth pressing down harder than any lecture ever could. For once, they couldn't twist my words or minimize my pain. I wasn't angry anymore, just certain. Power didn't come from revenge. It came from peace, and from finally setting the terms of my own love. Weeks passed after that day. I didn't hear from my parents immediately, and honestly, I didn't expect to. But one quiet Sunday morning, as the fog rolled in over the cliffs, I saw a figure standing at the garden gate. My father. He looked smaller somehow, his shoulders bent beneath the weight of something heavier than age. He didn't say much, just handed me a folded note in my mother's handwriting. We're sorry. Truly. We didn't see you for who you were, and we're trying to now. Beneath it, a single line written in his own rough scrawl. You were always part of this family. I just couldn't see it then. I didn't cry right away. I just stood there, the ocean wind tugging at my hair, and felt the kind of stillness Grandma always described as grace. Maybe people don't change overnight, but sometimes acknowledgement is its own beginning. Madison started visiting often after that. She'd bring wine and stories about her job, her new apartment, her tiny golden retriever named Oliver. We'd cook dinner together in Grandma's kitchen, laughter replacing all the echoes that once haunted these walls. Slowly, warmth crept back into the corners of my life that had long gone cold. One evening, as the sun melted into the horizon, I walked into the living room and saw the brass key glinting on the mantel. I picked it up, running my thumb over the worn grooves. The same key Grandma pressed into my hand the night I left everything behind. I whispered, "You were right, Grandma. I understand now." That key had never just opened a house. It had opened a path back to myself. I stepped onto the porch, listening to the sea crash below, and thought about everything it took to reach this peace. Every tear, every sleepless night, every moment of doubt. Forgiveness didn't erase the past, but it rewrote the ending. I glanced back at the house, glowing in the soft amber light, a symbol of love rebuilt on my own terms. And as the breeze carried the scent of jasmine through the air, I found myself smiling. The day they disowned me, I lost a family, I whispered, voice steady and sure. But I found myself, and that was the one thing they could never steal. Bottom of form.